Yeah, Minky, yeah, Minky.
It's MinkiSan for YouTube. How you doing? If you followed my channel, you know that I take sort of a bit of a serious interest in the quality of my videos. I want my videos to look crisp and sharp. I want them to be a representation of what I see when I'm playing. And not only that, I want there to be less fuss and messing around as possible. So, to that aim, I am going to be doing an entire series now on capture software. I'm going to go through all the major players. I have, for you, videos coming up on Fraps. Yes, Fraps. Bandicam, DX3, Shadowplay, XSplit, Action, and PlayClaw, which is what we're looking at today. I'm doing PlayClaw first because I think I was most surprised by this software. Now, I originally purchased PlayClaw a while ago. I was unhappy and I sent it back. It just didn't do what I wanted it to do. Now I have a new setup, a new system, and I thought, right, let's give PlayClaw a try again. Now I didn't pay for this particular key. It was sent to me via the developers because I asked them for it and said, look, I'm doing this series. Do you want me to, I want to review your software. Do you think it can stand up to the rigours, bearing in mind that I once returned it? And they said, yes, it can. And I haven't been disappointed so far. So I think what we'll do is we'll firstly take a look at the software a little bit, some of the settings around it. I will then show you the encoder settings that I'm using, and then I will show you the results that I got in 2 games. Now, this whole series is going to rely on me recording exactly the same footage and you watching that same footage over and over. Basically, it's not. It's going to rely on me telling you what's happening. But I've recorded a race in Project Cars around the same track, and I've recorded some Battlefield footage. So obviously I can't get the same maps and make things exactly the same. But Battlefield 1's a very modern game. Project Cars is quite modern. They're both kind of a bit graphics pushy. I've got everything set to Ultra on both games, and I'm playing at 1440p. So those things are constants, as is the PC which I'll be using. Now then, my PC, the CPU is an i7-4790K. I've got a GTX, so it's an MSI GTX 980 Twin Frozer graphics card. I'm using 16GB of Corsair Vengeance RAM. My motherboard is an MSI Z97 Gaming 7. My cooling, I've got I think it's a Corsair, it'll be on screen, but it's a Corsair H100i liquid cooler. And the PSU, which is the power supply, is a CX750M. That will stay constant. Nothing there will change. Only the software will change. So this test is literally just about the recording software itself. Everything else is going to try and be as constant as possible. The only other thing I'll add to that, the only other caveat I'll say within that, is that I am running my game from one hard drive and I am recording to another hard drive. Whatever software you end up doing, invest in that. Make sure that you don't record to the same hard drive that you're playing the game from. Now, I am not going to do anything to those softwares in the edit. I'm not going to add any sharpness, I'm not going to recolor, I'm not going to do any of those things. So let's first of all have a look at the plugins within PlayClaw, because the plugins are one of the things that sets this software apart. You can add different features to your video. Now, you can choose then to show that to someone or not show it to someone. So you could basically have this information on screen and the audience doesn't see it, i.e. the FPS, the GPU state, the temperatures, the CPU usage, a clock, the amount of disk space you're using, all these different things that you can add in, overlays, etc. Because obviously you can stream with PlayClaw as well. You can add all this information on your screen that you choose to show or not to show to your audience. It's a really nice feature, and I don't think, apart from XSplit, which you can have sort of plugins to help you with your broadcast, I don't think there's any actual capture software which allows you to do this. So it's a really nice feature, and I'm really pleased they've added it. The next thing we'll have a look at is profiles. Now, if you stream and you record gameplay or you record desktop or something like that, you can set up different profiles to use different aspects of the software depending on what you're doing. So for gaming, you're probably a lot like me. You want to just record your stuff and not have to worry about it. The recording software should be something that works really well and just sits there in the background and doesn't interfere with what you're doing. So by having just one setting, you can go and do that. You can just have a gaming profile which is set up for when you're gaming. Okay, so before I go on any further, I just want to quickly say something about cracked software. Now, yes, you can go and get all these pieces of software cracked. You can go and get all these pieces of software illegally, but you'll have an old version. The old version of this software didn't work for me. Okay, it didn't work well for me. However, it didn't work well for me, so I contacted the developers. Here's what happens when you've got an original piece of software and you contact a developer and say, hey, this software isn't working for me properly. And the dev will contact you back and ask you a question. Think you should tell me what hardware you've got. And Ed would help me through my problem at the time and try to solve my issues. Unfortunately, we couldn't do it because my hardware wasn't up to scratch. However, they gave me a refund and we've moved on. And now I've got the software and I think it's fabulous. Right, let's move on. So this streaming icon, if you click it, you will see that there's lots and lots of different sites set up for you ready to stream to, including a custom server, but not only that, also Restream. Restream's fabulous. Restream allows you to stream to multiple sources at once. The fact they've got a feature for it here and allows you to pick all those things, it's all set up for you ready to go, it's brilliant. It just makes it again, it's just another example of the software not being in the way of what you're doing. It's out of the way, it's things are set up easy for you. You don't have to worry about it, it's just done. You can get on with the job of streaming, or you can get on with the job of just, doing your own thing. Whatever it is you want to do, if you want to record gameplay, if you want to record something else. I mean, I would imagine most people who are watching this want to record gameplay. Now, something that a lot of software has issues with is the ability to stream with different audio sources. That's not an issue in PlayClaw. As you can see, I've got 2 separate audio sources set up here. But what if I wanted to record, say, several different mics, or I wanted some other sources, or I wanted something else in there? Maybe I want a separate feed for my TeamSpeak, and a separate... Maybe I'm doing a podcast, and I've got 4 people around with 4 different microphones, and I want things set up slightly differently. Well, at the moment, I've got a default option selected, which means I'm using my default speakers and my default microphone. I don't have to think about it, it's just done. If I wanted to add, let's say, a podcast and I want to add 4 other microphones, I can simply uncheck the default option, or use default sources, and click add a source. Now, I've not gone crazy, but I'm pretty sure I can just keep clicking this and add as many sources as I wanted. So you could have different mics set up, you can have different things set up, you can have them set up with specific keys. So for example, if I was doing an interview with several people and somebody keeps interrupting, or you know what it's like when you're talking with your mates and you've got people talking over each other, you can have a push to talk key. So you ask a question, they can only respond when you've got their push to talk key held down. So really customizable. When you've done that, you finish your podcast, you click default sources, and you're back to being able to just record with the sound that you're getting from the system. How many times have you recorded something and you've forgotten to change the sound source, so you ended up getting the wrong audio? Nothing. That won't happen with this. It's sorted for you without a problem. Right, the encoder. This is where the meat and nuts and bolts of everything is. Now, the footage you're about to see was recorded with the H.264 NVIDIA encoder. I'm using an NVIDIA graphics card. There is a chip on my GPU which allows this to happen, and it means that I can record without really any frame rate hits, a couple of FPS. Now, the goal in all of these videos is going to be to record at 60 FPS. As long as we're getting above that, we're going to call it a good piece of software, because that's really the best that we can get to YouTube at the moment. So 60 FPS, which is what I'm setting at. I'm going to make sure I'm writing the audio into a separate file. And the reason is so that I've got a separate audio track for my vocals and a separate audio track for my game audio, which is really important so that I can, mess around with it as much as I want to in post. When I've done that, I'm going to go into the advanced encoder settings, or encoder setup actually, and then I'm going to click on the advanced tab, which I've already done previously. Now my preset I'm going to use is high quality. I want quality over speed. That's really important to me, that my videos look as good. I want you to see what I'm seeing. So I select the high quality option, but if you were streaming, you might want to pick high performance, low latency. You might want to go for high performance because your video, you've got lots and lots and lots of options that you can actually choose within that sort of encoder itself setup. I'm not sure I'm making much sense, but that's what I'm going to do anyway. I'm keeping it a variable bitrate. What I've found with PlayClaw there's no issues with audio sync. I think it's literally writing things so separately that you don't get that. Sometimes when the audio will slowly over time go out of sync with the video, isn't happening. It's one of my biggest bugbears. It's one of my biggest problems, and PlayClaw has solved that. Somehow they've solved it. So that's what I'm going to stick with, the variable bitrate. And it was previously selected, but I'm going to make sure that I'm enabling Kabak. Now, Kabak is context adaptive binary arithmetic coding. Arithmetic. It's me reading like a retard. What that means is, it's basically when you're recording in H.264, it allows you to have high quality, but with very small file sizes. So it helps you, it just compresses your video, and I'm assuming it's only video, but it compresses your video so that you've got the same sort of quality, but without having those huge file sizes. Now, the footage you're going to see soon, which is me, in actual fact, let's put the footage on now. So this footage you're looking at is actually me playing Project Cars. The information you've got in the top left of the screen is information that I decided to show as I was playing. I have the Steam FPS in the background. Just behind, I put the overlay in the wrong place, but you get to see that it's roughly the same. That's the actual FPS I'm getting while playing. It's almost identical to the FPS I was getting whilst I was playing without recording. So it's a phenomenal codec. It works extremely well with an NVIDIA card. I'm sure if you've got a newer AMD card, you're going to see similar results. And I can tell you, when I looked at the footage before I rendered it with Sony Vegas, it was phenomenal. So I'm really excited to see how well this comes out in the render here. But basically, it's compressed. This whole race, which is only 1 minute or so I'm going to talk through it while it's happening. The entire race and both audio files were only 687 megabytes. That is phenomenal. I don't have any other recording software that can do that. I don't have anything else that can record, it seems, in the quality that I expect, in 1440p. This is 1440p file as well. Give me the results that I want, have 2 separate audio streams, and have only 687 megabyte file for 2 minutes of recording. That might seem like a lot, but it really isn't. It just really isn't. Specifically, look at this corner. As I come up to this corner, whilst I'm not recording, I peaked at 98 FPS. I peak at here, I think 96. I pop up to in a second. Does it go up to 90? Yeah, there, 96. So I lost 2 frames per second from recording and not recording. Okay, let's move on to Battlefield, which is a more modern game, a little bit more graphics intensive. I get 65 to 80, maybe 90, sort of peak at 90 sometimes when I'm not recording FPS. But every single piece of software I've used has a problem with Battlefield at the moment. It's not very well optimized. But look at this, I'm still getting 60s. I mean, this is kind of what I would expect while I was playing. I wouldn't have a problem with this. But if you notice, it's above 60 FPS constantly. That's all I want. That's all I want and all I need. I don't need more than 60 FPS. It stayed above it. So it's kind of like that golden thing that gamers are looking for. You want a really good quality recording with a low file size and a high FPS while you're recording, especially when you're playing a game like this. Look, we're at 72, 78. I mean, it's fabulous. It's really done. I'm blown away by this software at the moment. I really was expecting an okay piece of software. I don't know how it looks in the edit. You often see pixelization, especially when you have foggy scenes like this. I'm going to move to a point now in the video where the fog's sort of gone, and hopefully we're not getting as much pixelization in the render. Whilst I'm watching the preview, I'm watching it in the best full quality. I'm not seeing any pixelization, but this is a similar result that I'm getting a lot of times. If this renders with no pixelization showing, this is going to be the software that I use to record all my footage with from now on. That is how good this is. And I've got a lot of software that I'm going to go through. Now, I haven't added it. Normally what I would do with my footage is I bump the saturation up a very small amount just to make the colours seem a little bit more vivid, and I would also brighten lightly, just very lightly. Every now and again I might sharpen depending on the game, or I might even actually take that sharpening away. Just depends on how pixelated the game itself is. Now with Battlefield, I normally have to remove that sharpening. I have to sort of take it down. It's set at around 500. I put it down to about 475, 450, only very lightly. So, you know, it's still crisp and stuff, but it just means that it reduces the amount of pixelization that you see. Now, I'm not going to be doing that with any of this software. Any of the recordings that I make now, there is going to be, for these tests anyway, there is going to be no alteration to the footage. So what you see is the actual raw recorded footage that I got using the software itself. I think you can see it's really good quality, and I mean, I'm just hoping it's going to really stand out as well as it does. So let's add the results of this test for PlayClaw onto our capture software score thingy. So I've not been able to measure it in any specific way, but these are kind of averages just by taking a look at it. And you've seen the footage, so you can tell me if you think I'm wrong. So just playing Project Cars, we're getting about 82 FPS. When we record Project Cars, we're getting about 80. When we just play Battlefield 1, we're getting about 74 FPS. And when we record Battlefield 1, we get about 70 FPS. So pretty impressive results. And you really get the feeling that the people that made this play games, record games, stream games. Things are easy to use. There's a lot of stuff that this does that other software doesn't. One thing I didn't show you is the blacklist. Now, you know how when you start some recording software, it starts hooking into any program you've got open, Outlook and all the other things that you don't want it to record, then it doesn't pick up your game. You can actually set a blacklist of software that will never get hooked into. And I think that we can say that sort of sums up PlayClaw. It's a really well thought out piece of software. Very impressive interface, a really nice interface, very simple to use. You could, once you've got it set up, you could leave it and just then you've got everything as is. I think you will need to play around with it a little bit to find the right settings for your system. But I certainly say that it's a good piece of software if you have a modern PC. If you're running older software, if you're running older hardware, I'm going to say that it may be a little bit too much for your system, but certainly any modern machine will be able to run this easily. And you're going to get fantastic results because if you're using an NVIDIA or an AMD card, you have the option to use the built-in codec, which is absolutely fabulous. So thanks very much for watching this video. If you liked it, please hit like and subscribe and all those things, comment. Go and get the, there's a link in the description to go and grab a copy of PlayClaw. Like I said before, there's nothing in it for me. Just, you know, the fact that you're going to go and grab it. So there's a link there to go in, get a trial version at least of the software and see how it runs on your system. Come back next time there's a video up because we're going to look at Fraps next. Fraps is coming back. They're working on a new version. We're going to look at the old version because we haven't got the new version yet. I am going to try and stay in contact with the devs to find out exactly what's happening between now and making the next video so we can see if we can get some more information about it and see what that's going to do. But that's a very old piece of software that was reliable for everybody and it's just fallen by the wayside because it just doesn't have the necessary things that something like PlayClaw has now, all those extra bells and whistles that people seem to, well, as we've refined our craft, I suppose, we've needed more and more things. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. You're wonderful people. Got a lot of time for you. Love you. Bye.
Goodbye. Yeah.